Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com.
Welcome to radio's unchallenged authority on wealth, prestige, and success. It's another edition of Public Sector Pension Millionaire.
Yeah, let's spin the list that I have here of 17,000 Illinois government pensions that exceed $100,000 a year. That's like net present value, $3 million plus pensions.
Oh, must be nice.
Here we go.
Okay,
Tell me where to
ready?
stop.
And stop.
All right, how many lines down?
I want 10, please.
10 lines down. Let's see
And
here.
introduce me to, is it a sugar mama or a sugar
3,
daddy?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Please meet pension millionaire Daniel Cullen. Daniel Cullen is retired from Northfield Township High School District 225.
Okay.
Retired at the tender age of 55.
Wow.
His annual pension is $124,000. His lifetime contribution to that pension, $145,000.
Oh my gosh.
He has received so far $1.7 million in pension benefits from the generous taxpayers of Illinois. His lifetime payout, expected lifetime payout, $3.3 million. $145,000 in, $3.3 million out, guarantee. That's 4.4% of what he expects to get out. That's what he put in. And
Must be nice.
that's a perfect segue. We love it here because we have we're not in the business of educating children at the K through 12 level, with very
it's a
few
scam.
exceptions. What we have here are K through 12 school districts masquerading as schools when in actuality they're just third-party administrators to confer benefits and salaries and benefits to the adults in the system. We have adult-centered education in Illinois. It's about salaries and benefits. It's not about putting kids on a path to a successful life. And that's a perfect segue to our next guest. Michael Petrilli is the president of the Thomas B. Fordham Institute. He's a research fellow at Stanford's Hoover Institution, executive director of Education Next, and he has written a new book, or he's edited a new book with Chester Finn, who's also at Fordham, How to Educate an American, the Conservative Vision for Tomorrow's Schools. Michael Petrilli, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's great to be with you.
So the conservative vision for tomorrow's schools, it seems to me we need to pick up where what we were just talking about. It's nice to have a vision about what should be taught in schools and have a curriculum, but then you have to get past the gatekeepers, meaning the administrators and the teachers. If we're not properly selecting and training administrators and teachers, then all the best ideas in the world never make it to the classroom. And it seems to me that's where so many, particularly urban school districts, but not limited to urban school districts, have failed.
Yeah, and wow, those were some eye-popping numbers. Certainly, it's well known nationally that Illinois is a mess when it comes to education and to that pension problem. But wow, that is dramatic.
Yes.
But yes, look, there's been an effort to reform our schools going back at least 3 decades. And there's been some progress here and there. There is some greater accountability than there used to be, believe it or not. And certainly there's some sectors that are doing quite well, like the charter school sector in Chicago, where the schools are getting dramatically better results than the traditional public schools. And there's evidence that they're helping some of the nearby public schools improve as well. But there's still a lot of big problems. And lately it feels like education reform has gotten stuck. Partly that's because of all of the political fighting and the polarization. So this book was a chance to ask some super smart conservative writers and thinkers to tell us where should we go next on education, and they gave us some really interesting answers.
Well, but before we get to some of those scholars that are share their offerings in your book, you have scholars at the Fordham Institute that had a good piece that I saw the other day, Training Teachers to Fail, and they talk about how student interest and choice in their education is prioritized over high-quality education. Teachers are taught to be passive and subservient may be too strong a word, but it's not that far off when it comes to what's going on in their classroom.
Yeah, look, the education schools have been a problem forever, and they still seem to be just bringing new teachers through a system where they're not being taught the very basic aspects of how to be an effective teacher. I mean, you'd think that would be their role. Instead, they want to talk about philosophy. They want to talk about progressivism. So you've got elementary school teachers, for example, that go through some of these ed schools and come out the other side not being taught the science on how most kids learn to read. We actually know quite a lot about how to teach kids to read. Not surprisingly, we have this English language that's phonetic, and you've got to teach kids how to decode the language. And there's elementary school teachers coming out of these ed schools that don't know this, that are being taught to have kids guess at words, that looking for context clues, things that have been discredited for 30 years. It's real snake oil kinds of stuff.
And sometimes
it's a huge part of the problem.
Yeah, and we correspond a lot with teachers now via email, and they don't have command of the English language when they're writing. Not only spelling errors, but grammatical errors, run-on sentences. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, and look, there are a lot of great teachers out there, and they are heroes. They wake up every day, and they are helping our young people develop in the ways that we need them to. They're for example, holding the line on grades. We have a recent study that came out showing that, not surprisingly, kids learn more from teachers who are tough graders. But there's no incentive for teachers to be tough graders today. You're just going to catch flack from some parents and from the principals, and yet those teachers do it because they believe in high standards. And then they've got colleagues, as you say, who are, don't come close to meeting high standards, who yet have lifetime employment and these incredible pensions in the system. I can't imagine how angry it must be to be an excellent teacher who works hard and who is willing to do what it takes for kids, and to see, their colleagues next door who are just cashing it in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I can imagine it because a lot of teachers are writing about it, just nobody's listening to them. There was a good piece last month by Elizabeth Emery, who actually lives here in Chicago now. She was teaching in Utah, in Salt Lake City, and she quit after teaching only one full semester, not because of salary, not because of pension and health care benefits, but because she couldn't do what she got into teaching to do, which is instill a love of learning into children, which is to command her classroom, because she doesn't get support from administrators. She's undermined by parents and then the administrators who cater to the parents at her expense. The lack of ability to institute discipline in the classroom. It was all workplace environmental factors that are easily changed with proper leadership. It had nothing to do with what is the central focus of our discussions about education, which is dollars and cents.
Yeah, no, that's right. And look, that is one focus of this book, as we talk about the challenge around discipline today, that there is this movement to try to say to schools, it is not okay to discipline kids. But somehow if you discipline kids, especially if you give a kid a suspension because they've hurt another child, that they've done something that's really over the line, that somehow that can be racist, that's classist, and so instead what we should do is have kids sit around in a circle and talk about their feelings and do restorative justice. I mean, and it's the teachers, again, who are on the front lines and who now have these classes that are out of control. They've got no way to handle these classrooms, and we wonder why there's so much frustration. So
in your book, as you mentioned, you've got a number of essays from a wide gamut of scholars and deep thinkers who are not necessarily scholars in an academic setting. The successful models around the country that should be replicated and scaled. Give us some examples.
Yeah, well, so a couple of themes that come out of the book. I mean, one is that we're just not doing a good enough job when it comes to teaching our history to young people. Either we're not teaching it at all, which is unfortunately the case when you look at a lot of elementary schools. We're just saying, well, we're going to leave history and science and those other subjects till later. And so you go into a, say, second grade classroom, and it's just completely vacuous and boring. And instead of teaching our heroes and the George Washingtons and Abraham Lincolns and Harriet Tubmans, they're not learning anything. And then as you get older, what we see, if we do see any teaching of history, is it tends to be coming from a very leftward bias. We talk about the 1619 Project coming out of the New York Times, this new effort that's now a curriculum that's basically trying to teach not only about slavery and the key role that played in our history, which of course it did, and it was a horrific institution, but that it explains everything about our history, that America is racist to its core. And this is now the curriculum that schools are using in many schools across the country. And in this book, what we try to say is, look, by all means, we need to teach our history in a way that is critical. We don't want to propagandize to kids and pretend that everything in our history has been perfect. But so it should be warts and all, but it shouldn't only be the warts. We also need to tell a story to the kids that is factual and that talks about the great successes that we've seen overcoming many of those challenges. That this has been a country that has very lofty ideals. We have struggled to live up to those ideals at times, but there's been amazing Americans throughout the centuries who have fought to better live up to those ideals. But that is not what's being taught in many places. Instead, the teaching is all about how America is horrible.
Well, right, but so it seems to me that the political left is a lot better at pushing their agenda than the intellectually honest are in getting legitimate scholarship into K through 12 systems, and this is what has to change. I mean, again, I said we have all the good ideas, you have all the facts and the context that's important to a full understanding of history or any other subject, but if it doesn't get to the classroom, it doesn't matter. So Wilford McClay, a professor down in Oklahoma, has a new book called Land of Hope, a new history book that he's trying to get into schools. You've got the 1776 Unites, a group of academics and activists that are responding to 1619, and they've published 12 essays as their first offering in response to 1619, and also the alternative complete history of Black Americans in America. So where's the infrastructure to carry some of the good work that is being produced that should be part of curriculum into these actual school districts?
That's right. Well, here's some good news: is that the infrastructure is the local school board. And so, look, we've been critical over the years at Fordham of local school boards because of all the reasons that you started this segment with. They have often agreed to these ridiculous benefits and pension packages and not been minding the store. However, the good news is they are the ones that make decisions like what gets taught in the schools, what kind of history books are used in the schools. And so, for your listeners, find out what's happening in your own local school district. Are they teaching the 1619 project or the 1776 project? What is the textbook that's being used in American history? That you can find out. You can show up at a school board meeting, and you can have some real influence on that.
He is Michael Petrilli. He's the president of the Thomas B. Fordham Institute, research fellow at Stanford's Hoover Institution, executive editor of Education Next. The book, How to Educate an American, The Conservative Vision for Tomorrow's Schools, that he edited along with Chester Finn, a longtime education reformer, and essays from a broad, as I said, cross-section of conservative thinkers and academics. Definitely worth checking out. Michael Petrilli, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
The Lou Dobbs Financial Report is brought to you by Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Visit signaturebank.bank for your commercial banking needs.
I'm Lou Dobbs. Investors hoping for a market rebound today. The TSA grounds the Chinese app TikTok. We'll have the latest economic reports. Those stories next. In a recent survey, investors shared what they felt were the greatest threats to their retirement. It's no surprise the most common threats include stock market volatility, economic uncertainty, conflict in the Middle East, the 2020 presidential impeachment, and election. Unfortunately, there are many threats beyond your control that can affect your retirement savings. At Goldco, a leader in precious metals, the team believes one way to protect your investment portfolio is with physical gold and silver. Goldco has helped thousands of investors safeguard their retirement, especially in times of uncertainty. In fact, if you call 855-971-2006, Goldco will send you a free 1-ounce silver American Eagle coin. And all you have to do is pay for shipping and handling. No obligation. 100% free. Call 855-971-2006 to get your free silver American Eagle coin. That's 855-971-2006. Investors are hoping for a better day on Wall Street today after yesterday's huge sell-off on concerns about the worsening coronavirus pandemic. On the economic calendar today, the Conference Board issuing its latest index of consumer confidence. Many economists expect the highest reading since August because of the continued strength of the job market under President Trump. The Pentagon adopting new ethical principles as it prepares to accelerate its use of artificial intelligence. The principles call for people to exercise appropriate levels of judgment and care